Joining us live right now is India Today's Nikhil Nar. Nikhil, what do you see and what do you think about the squad that has been chosen, although most of the reporters over there kept asking about Shubman Gill?
Well, Anji, that's because that is the big news at the moment. I'd have to say that, personally having covered Indian cricket, for a long time and keeping a track of all the latest developments, I don't think anyone would have thought that we would see a scenario where Shubman Gill would be out of the T20I team for the World Cup. That's not to say that the selectors have not taken the right decision. I think they have taken the right call, but you have to also look at the larger picture. Shubman Gill is your Test captain at the moment. Shubman Gill is your ODI captain at the moment. He was brought back into the T20I scheme of things because it was considered that India would like to have an all-format captain. So he was the next in line to take over the T20I captaincy. But what's transpired in the last 4 or 5 months has been that Shubman Gill's experiment of having him back in the T20I setup didn't quite work for the Indian team. And it's lovely then to notice that the Indian team management has taken that call. Oftentimes we see, listen, you're just about 2 months away from the T20 World Cup. Oftentimes you see that the selectors or any cricket board for that matter is reluctant to take some major calls, which is why no one was really expecting, despite not getting a lot of runs, no one was really expecting that Shubman Gill would be out, considering, as I said, that he's the leader in 2 of the 3 formats of the Indian team. Yet they've taken a call, and I think that is a welcome decision. If you ask me personally, I think that experiment about 3 or 4 months ago of bringing Shubman Gill disturbed a lot of things in a settled Indian T20 setup. You had Sanju Samson opening, he was doing well. You also had, Rinku Singh being the finisher. That was the combination that was working for the Indian team. But as soon as you got a Shubman Gill, you had to make multiple changes to accommodate a Shubman Gill. I think the Indian team would have gone with that had runs come through Shubman Gill's bat. But unfortunately, that didn't happen for him. And I think the last couple of games was sort of indications, because the last 2 games, it was reported that Shubman Gill, who did not make the 11 for the Indian T20I team versus South Africa, it was being reported that he is injured. That's why he's sitting out. But now I think, the cat is out of the bag. And now you can safely say that it was a planned move in the last 2 T20Is to rest Shubman Gill, to take Sanju Samson back to the opening spot, back to the combination that had been really working for India. And that has resulted in Shubman Gill out of that 15. The other big news, as I said, when you got Shubman, you had to make a few other changes to the Indian team. You were trying to manufacture a finisher in Shivam Dube. You were trying to give him that role. That also wasn't really working out for the Indian team. So they've gone back to their original finisher, someone, who they've kept the faith in for the last year or so, is Rinku Singh. He comes back, because of which Jitesh Sharma, who was playing on and off for the Indian team as a finisher, as a wicketkeeper, he goes out. So 2 major changes for the Indian team ahead of the World Cup. If you had asked me last evening, Anjali, what would be the changes, my safe estimate and safe guess would have been no changes. Shubman will be there, Jitesh will be there, and Indian team will go with a safe team. But I'm happy to note they've not taken the safe route. They've taken the more pragmatic route. They've taken the route which actually can really work in India's favor come the Cricket World Cup, which is just 2 months away.
Right. Nikhil, what about the position of the vice captain? Even that question was asked, and Agarkar had to step in and explain why Axar Patel.
See, it's interesting because I'll give you a sequence of events. The Indian team had been in red hot form. Remember, they are also the defending T20 World Cup champions. They won the title in 2024. After that, you had a few changes because Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, as well as Ravindra Jadeja, 3 stalwarts, retired from that shortest format. You went through a few changes, and many thought that this was going to be a transition and India's T20 fortunes will dip, as it often happens during transitions. But that didn't happen. Actually, India notched up their game a couple of levels higher than what they had done even while they were winning that T20 World Cup. And that was actually a major surprise to the cricketing world, that was India's bench strength, that even though 3 major players have gone out, this young team is looking so good. They've been undefeated, by the way, ever since they won that T20 World Cup for a year and a half. They have been undefeated in any series in this particular format. That's how good they have been. But recently, in the last 3 or 4 months, certain cracks began to appear. Even though India was still winning bilateral T20I series, they were winning multilateral tournaments like the Asia Cup in the T20 format. But you could notice that there were a few things which were unsettled. And that all, as I go back, that all happened because you wanted to bring back a Shubman Gill. What did you do at that time? To answer your question, Axar Patel was already the vice captain. You got Shubman Gill, who is now the captain in Tests and ODIs, and made him the vice captain, unceremoniously sacking Akshar as the vice captain. Your captain remained the same in Suryakumar Yadav. But I think as soon as the Indian team management has realized that that was a misstep, and that's all right. You know, I often say that two people will never agree when it comes to the roadmap of an Indian team. The Indian team thought that that was the correct roadmap. They took that with a Shubman Gill, and that's why the vice captaincy also moved from Akshar to Shubman. But I'm glad to note that when they realize in that 3-4 months this experiment hasn't worked, instead of being stubborn about it and continuing with it, I'm happy to note that they realize, let's course correct. We still have time. There's still 2 months to go for the T20 World Cup. Let's course correct. And that's exactly what they've done, which is why you see a Shubman going out. And then quite
Right.
naturally, who was the vice captain before that? Axar Patel. He comes back as vice captain.
Right. Thank you, Nikhil, for that detailed analysis.